Okay.
I don't know how to advance slides. Okay, so my name's Rachel Robertson, and I interviewed 3 people from my work placement, which is Swan City Youth Service. So just put some photos up of the service, the pool tables and the chill out Xbox area, the outside area, kitchen, boxing area, some offices, computers, okay. So I interviewed 3 young girls. The age group was 17 to 20, so they were 17, 18 and 20 years old. I did out a survey of 29 questions. Don't ask me why I was 29. I ran out of ideas for 30. And I got them to fill it out, and then I went through it with them just to get them to expand on some of their answers and get some more information off them, or, ask them what they meant by some certain answers. So that was just like a conversation. And then I looked at the common answers that they had for the questions. So kind of the subculture is they're all young and unemployed. They all attend the service. They all have low levels of education, and they're all white and female. To probably look at it a bit more, I mean, probably in the 80s or 90s, they'd be considered bogans in the area. So they hang out together because of those things that bring them together. So the key features, they all attend the youth centre. They all have similar backgrounds. So their parents have been separated. They were bullied at school and they hated it. So they weren't good at school and they were also bullied. Same age group, same sex, same interests. So very central interests in the area. So they have, they all hang out around the area where the youth centre is, to go to the movies, to shop, to socialise, and it's where they live. So they're very comfortable in that area. They have a lot of the same views on life. It's quite, again, insular, it's quite limited. So I talked about politics a little bit with them and asked if they voted or if they would vote when they became like the age to vote. None of them knew who the Premier of WA was, which was quite interesting. They see themselves as outsiders and they have limited future hope. So it's just kind of, when I said, where do you want to be in 10 years or what do you want to be doing in 10 years, it was quite limited in, their kind of outlook. And I asked them all if money wasn't an object, if someone said, I will fund your lifestyle, whatever you want it to be, what would you do? One said travel. The other one just said, just to have a house and that was it. There was no huge views. But, I mean, that might be an age thing as well. They've all got a fairly low opinion of themselves. I'm stupid, I'm bullied, fat, had bad relationships where their self-esteem's been damaged. So they identify themselves as, quite low. They have a common dislike for rich or privileged people. I asked them about school and I said, what is a group of people that you can't identify with? And they were all similar in that answer, that they were like, well, they're snobs, rich people are snobs. They're all comfortable, like I say, in their own environment. So that Midland area, they do everything in that area. They don't very often go outside of it. They know a lot of the young people in the area, so that's where they're comfortable. So from an outsider's point of view, they would be seen as Midland people. So they're, low socioeconomic area, unemployed, low education. They're quite, I don't like using the word feral, but that's what a lot of other people say about them. They burp and they swear and they always say, I don't give a shit what anyone thinks, blah, blah, blah. So that kind of language that they use in front of anybody, there's no... they don't kind of monitor what they say. They're just happy to say it how they see it. So the dominant culture, probably even in that area is, and just getting outside the area is a bit more middle class, although the young people in the area are quite high unemployment. So middle class versus low socioeconomic, educated versus low education levels. So a lot of these young people haven't finished high school. They're very insular in their views, so what happens in their area is important, and outside of that doesn't matter. They're isolated by that as well, because their confidence is in being in the area and being with what they know. And all of them said they thought they had limited choices just because of, financial. One has a baby and has an ex-partner, and she said it limited her what she could do because he determines some things that happens. So yeah, they all thought. One lives with her mother, who's quite controlling. She won't let her apply for Centrelink because the mother gets money for her, so she won't let her apply for her own Centrelink. And she's trying to stop her going to the youth centre as well, so limited in her choices. So how I engage with them, these are 3 young people that I've had really good relationships with since I started at the youth service. One of them was probably a little bit more standoffish than the other, but I think other youth workers are a little bit harder on her because she's quite mouthy and opinionated, but she's really, really insecure, and she kind of covers it up by this big thing. So I've made like a bit of an effort to kind of really support her a little bit. And they tell me things, and just make sure that I'm non-judgmental, so they know that they can tell me things, and they're really honest in their feedback. And also I did the interviews at the youth service, so they're really comfortable with being there. I set times up with them so they didn't feel, pressured to, when I was like, oh, I have to get them done, Tuesday, I was like, they were really had the kind of control over when we did it. So yeah, that's the engagement with the young people. These are the organisations that they are engaged with. So the youth centre, they all come there every day. They would all like to see it open on weekends too. I haven't told the manager that. She'll probably have kittens. They all have benefits from Centrelink. They all go to regular counselling sessions at Headspace, which the youth centre have a very good relationship with. So there's cross referrals done a lot with Headspace. And then TAFE, so one's studying childcare, another one's doing hospitality at TAFE, and then the third one was enrolled in, I think she was doing hospitality too. But when I asked her what she ultimately wanted to do with her life, she said to be a paramedic. So I don't know why she thinks that's out of reach. I had a little bit of a chat to her about that and how it was still an achievable thing, and maybe to explore something that could work towards her being a paramedic rather than going, oh, I'm just going to go and be a hairdresser or be a, not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's not her passion. So she's kind of surfing within what she feels comfortable doing. So their ongoing needs and some of the things that are maybe lacking for them is access to programs. Like I'd really like to see them do some, confidence building programs, empowerment programs. I haven't explored that hugely with them, and I'm not 100% sure what it would look like. But there was a girls' club that we ran for about 6 weeks at the centre, and they all came to that. And that would be nice to build on something like that. They need the non-judgmental mentors because they obviously there's a lot of things going on for these young people. Education's huge. They all said that was important when I asked if education was important to them, and I think they're realising that as they get older. I think when you're 14 and 15 and school's hard and dropping out, it doesn't seem as important, but when you get to your later teens and early 20s and discover that any course you want to do requires some level of education, they're finding that's important. And also, like I say, the assistance with course selection. So this young girl was like, oh, I'm going to go and do beauty or hairdressing or something like that when she really wants to be a paramedic. So I'd really like if she explored that. That would be so cool. And the hope that they can do whatever they want. I don't want them to think, with good support, like I don't want them to think that they have limited futures. And planning for the future, I said in 10 years, and it's such a long way off for all of them. And but just making some plans and small achievable goals along the way, I think, are really important for them. So does anyone have any questions about my young people?
Rachel, did you say they had education support and things like that in place? What sort of support is there for her to progress further to become an ambulance officer?
Yeah, so her education, she's done her Cert 4, is it, I think, in high school education. So she had enrolled in TAFE and was doing something, and then she just dropped out because it all got too hard. She's the one with the baby. And I only just found this out that she wanted to be a paramedic last week. So that is something that I actually started researching for her, because I think these kids think that they need, you know, this high level degree in order to be a paramedic, and I think there's ways in there that she can explore. So I'm going to kind of look into that for her and just give her some pathways that she can maybe look at, instead of just jumping headlong in and doing, you know, 12-month, 2-year course in something that she's not really that passionate about. So, yeah.
Cool.
Any other questions?
No.
No. Cool.
All right, so I don't know if mine's going to be very interesting, but I've decided to do my presentation on the subculture of hip hop. The reason for this is I had access to a hip hop crew through my eldest daughter, and I love their story behind how and why they formed together. I went to their dance studio, which is usually a ballet and acting studio in Berwick. It's free for this dance crew. They just, in return, they attend workshops and showcase for the ballet studio. I conducted my interviews through one of the training sessions.
Rachel, I'm really sorry, but I can't hear you when you turn your head away from the screen. I don't know if anybody else is, sorry to interrupt, I can't hear when you're looking away. Sorry.
How do I, is that better? Do I just...
Yeah, that's fine. If you're facing the screen, that's fine. It's just when you look to your notes, you can't.
All right, so I conducted my interviews during one of their training sessions and had their team's manager present. So just a bit about the dance crew. They came together after originally being a part of a dance school. The oldest member, who is only 22 years old, decided he wanted to teach his own style, his own originality, and choreograph his own routine. So yeah, he asked a few and off they went. So they called their crew Alliance, and this is them. So I asked the questions to 3 young people, and then at the end I asked the whole group, just a few, just get a bit of feedback from all of them. But yeah, so this is Alliance. There's 10 members. They've been a crew for about 2 years now, and their passionate dance coach is the one on the right. The age range is from the youngest being 14 and the eldest 22. They compete all around Australia, and they're in the hardest category, so it's pretty impressive. My daughter is the blondie at the back there. So this crew, they've got 2 sponsors, so they don't take money from each other. They purely just all get together 2 nights a week and just do what they love. They've got two sponsors, the Tattooed Barber and the Dominoes, and they kindly donate money to them. Goes towards their costumes, registration, and other needs they might have. So they all share a passion for hip hop, and their goals are to compete worldwide eventually. They don't care if they win at competitions, as long as they have fun and learn from each other. And yeah, sorry. Looked up a little bit of hip hop history, which was interesting before I went into the interviews, and asked all of them if they knew like the history of it, when it came about, why, and none of them had any idea. So they were quite interested when I told them. So I found this interesting myself, since my daughter's been in it for about 8 years. So hip hop's a subculture and art movement, developed mostly among African Americans in the Bronx of New York City during the late 1970s. I thought it was probably 80s, but 70s, pretty cool. The reason why hip hop music was so popular among African Americans is because it was the only way they could reach out to people and share their problems, which was through lyrical communication. And so, yeah, over 40 years ago, the century's most influenced subculture was born. It focused firstly on emceeing, which was done at like, you know, house parties, neighbourhood block parties, events. Yeah, I've just put a few pictures in there. A bit old school, so check out that radio. So hip hop has become one of the biggest cultural phenomenons the world has seen. So it's gone from the streets to the world stage. It's grown to be the biggest musical genre and cultural influence. Today, hip hop is expressed in ways such as music, art, dance, advertising, and in films. So it's gone from being a relatively underground style to a major style used throughout the world. So the thing with hip hop back in the early 70s, 80s, there was hardly any musical instruments used to create hip hop music. So it was mainly all done with the mouth, you know, banging on drums and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool to find out. So it's expressed through flashy modes of dressing, graffiti, break dancing, and slang. So I've listed a few influences this subculture has. So apparently you need to have expensive shoes, baggy clothing, and snapback hats. So that's pretty much sums up what my daughter's wardrobe looks like. So the 4 elements of this subculture. So some people think that hip hop's just music when really it's actually a subculture. So it's gone from the first major characteristic was emceeing. So it's the spoken word rhyming over a beat. DJing, so playing a record on turntables, and then there's the dance part of it, and graffiti, which is one of the most overlooked elements. So this is my first person, Kiara, that I interviewed. She's 19, born in Australia. She has no cultural or religious background. She studies primary school teaching at Deakin Uni and works part-time at Safeway. I asked Kiara what her interests were, such as music, favourite movie, and ultimate travel destination, just as a starting point. And she replied, R&B, rap, Ed Sheeran. She'd love to go to Greece because of the unusual buildings and photo opportunities. And I was amused to hear that her favourite movie is Back to the Future. So we had a bit of a conversation about that. She dresses comfortable in either baggy or sporty clothing. She joined this crew because the crew leader is her childhood friend. It's cheaper. They all, except one, pay their own fees, which is just $20 a week, which goes to like, I know they might go on like a group outing and, you know, go get something to eat or something like that. And she said that it's just a bit more laid back atmosphere, and the pressure to win doesn't exist. They just go out and have fun. I asked her why hip hop, and she said hip hop allows her to express herself. It's more interesting than other styles, and it's a part of who she is. And when I asked Kiara to describe herself and how she thinks others perceive her and what is most important in a friendship. So she said she's very outspoken, an open book, bubbly, confident, and says it how it is. And she reckons that others would agree 100%, and added in there that she's cocky and very opinionated. In a friend, she said people need to be down to earth, easygoing, fun, and honest. And Kiara has been a part of this crew since day one, so about 2 years ago. Next, we have Bronte, 17-year-old. She's got a Chilean background with no religious beliefs. She's in her last year of school with a passion to dance in a theme park and teaching dance to those less fortunate, such as specific. She said young people with Down syndrome. When I asked her why, she just said that she doesn't know. That's just, she really feels for them. So I'm like, okay. So she works part-time teaching kids aged 1.5 to 5 at a sports organisation, and her ultimate travel destination is Japan or Canada for the snow. Bronte too dresses comfy, baggy clothing and would wear her pyjamas all year round if she could. All right, so I'll move on to Christian, 16-year-old, first year. He was quite interesting. He wanted me to tell you guys that he thinks that he's the best dancer in the crew and his strong points are picking up chicks. So when why hip hop in this crew, he said that his parents are performers, but the music is epic, motivating, and when you listen to the lyric, it's deep and meaningful. Yeah, he's been thrown off now. So he's got a Greek and Jamaican background, doesn't have any religious beliefs, first year plumbing apprenticeship. So he said that hip hop's everything to him, and he describes himself funny, crazy, weird, brown, confident, and reckons his crew would say he's the best dancer. So I already said that. So conclusion, 3 young people seem different outside to me. I mean this by in regards to travel, career. They don't hang out together, and it's apparent that dance for them is so strongly influenced when it comes to their self-esteem and confidence. They go there as like an escape from school, work, study, family, and it allows them to just feel free and enjoy the company. Those who share their passion for hip-hop subculture. Yeah, that's it. If I want to shorten it down.
That was really interesting, Rachel.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Great slides and photos.
Yeah.
There's just some action shots there.
Wow.
To have that flexibility. Okay. Oh, sorry. Oh. All right. I'm attending placement at a school for disengaged youth, a subculture in itself. Here I've met several young people who are living independently of the parental family units. This is the subculture I'll be presenting to you all today. Some have had help establishing a safe living arrangement with extended family members, where they are responsible for their own decisions, expenses, more a roof over their heads. Some have had to find other ways like couch surfing. These young people have all had to grow up quick, learning hard rules of society. One thing that comes across from each of these young people is they had no idea where to turn, who to ask, or where to reach out at the critical turning point of their experience. So my main focus for this assessment is young people are not aware of how to engage with emergency crisis assistance when needed, nor is it easily accessible to them. Firstly, it's important to understand how government defines youth independent living and how they gauge who's eligible for assistance. The Australian Government Department of Human Services states that young people under the age of 18 qualify as independent if they can no longer live at home due to extreme circumstances. This includes family breakdown, violence, serious risk to their safety and well-being. Each individual case is assessed by a case manager. Once eligibility is established, the young person may then qualify for various government assistance programs like rent assistance, living allowance, education assistance, healthcare cards, and so on. Each student has their own reason for now living independently, but the general story that kept recurring in my research was that family life was not good. Each person felt they suffered mental and physical health issues by staying. Each decided on their own, no help from agencies, to move out. One was even kicked out of the home. Not one of the persons I spoke with knew where to go for help beforehand, and none of them felt they had the confidence to ask an agency for help either. This information was collated through one of one-on-one interviews, casual conversations, and also in collaboration with the teachers and caseworkers. Each subject gave me verbal permission to use their information for the purpose of an assessment, and I made sure they understood that their information would remain confidential. I began researching by speaking with the school principal, discussing the various youth subcultures within the school. She made suggestions as to who might be more willing to help and openly talk about their situations. I asked for permission to approach the students and to interview them. After I formed a questionnaire, I again requested permission to talk with the students. Each of the students were happy to help, willingly disclosing information about their situations. After the initial interview, I found each student more openly discussed their situations, both with me and in front of their classmates, so further information was able to be gathered from open conversation. Key features of this youth subculture. Each of the students defines independent living as taking responsibility for what they do, believing society sees them as being more mature or grown up than their peers. Each disclosed that home life was no longer an option. They needed to take control for themselves. They all stated they had no idea who to turn to for help. They weren't aware at the time of what agencies could help, either work on improving the home life or to assist in arranging a safe alternative. They also all reported that their mental health was not good at the time of deciding to exit the family home, suffering anxiety and depression. Student 1 said there was no money for her to stay. Mum couldn't afford her. Student 2 was living in a strained blended family environment and clashed with step-parent. They had no other parent to turn to and in the end was kicked out of home. And student 3 believes mum doesn't care about her, had no time or interest for her and can no longer stay living with mum. Before I go on, it's important to understand how many young Australians identify as homeless. While independent living isn't homeless, it certainly leads to youth homelessness. The census report includes living independently in these figures. I tried to find figures for youth independent living, looking at the Bureau of Statistics figures for the 2016 census. I asked local city council, youth case management team manager and trawled numerous local city council reports. Try as may, I couldn't find specific figures for this. These figures are calculated in with youth homeless figures. Out of 116,000 homeless people in the 2016 census, 18,560 of these were youth in temporary housing, staying at a friend's home, crashing on couch, places like that. 26,680 were youth in supported accommodation, a home providing specific care needs, for example, court-ordered arrangements or disability needs. And 37,120 were youth in severely crowded dwellings. This is undersized housing, homes without enough rooms to cater for the number of persons dwelling there, and shared homes, etc. Life's got to be pretty bad to lead to this. So, what's making youth leave home? The young people I approached left home for various reasons, but it all come down to being because they felt unsafe, abused, and that there was no place for them there. Parents had moved on with new partners and these youth no longer fitted into the family unit. All of the students recognised that their own behaviours, actions and needs led to the final decision of leaving. Violence and or abuse had been present and affordability was also a reason given. All of these reasonings are supported by Mildura's YAC-VIX, What's Important to Youth report, in which medical professionals and key workers in the youth field have identified that family breakdown and volatile home environments contribute to young persons leaving the family home. The Australian government recognises the key reasons as being that the young person is rejected or evicted, a victim of drug and alcohol abuse, physical, sexual and emotional abuse, or a drain on the family finances, as evidenced in the findings of the 3 students I interviewed. What effects has living independently had on these young people? All 3 students stated that they now have more responsibility. They've had to find accommodation, budgeting, buying, preparing food for themselves, schooling, paying bills, finding transport, getting medical attention and medicine, and the list goes on. All students disclosed they suffered mental stress and anxiety in the lead up to leaving home, and all 3 stated that stress had now eased. Student 1 commented that her mental health is now stronger and stable, and she is even physically healthier now that she's eating. All 3 students have struggled getting access to money, either not knowing where to go for help or having the confidence to approach the agencies for assistance. This has flowed on into not having finances to afford food, enough money for phone, bus, rent, and certainly no money for recreation. Student 1 said she could not access independent housing as she's only 16. She's been told to come back when she's 18. This was by the very agency that's set up to help these young people out. They did, however, help establish a safe arrangement with extended family. Student 2 has been told there is a 3-year waiting list for public housing, and he has a couch to sleep on, so there's no need for emergency housing for him. Not having access to a phone or fixed address has made it difficult too when applying for assistance, as it is difficult for agencies to reach out to student 2 with important documentation. Student 3 gave up and is now living with her boyfriend. Neither student 2 or 3 had any recognised forms of identification and therefore had to apply for birth certificates, Medicare cards, proof of age cards, which were also difficult to arrange. So where do young people go for help? Student 1 and 2 were aware of Mallee Accommodation Support Program, but didn't understand what its services offered. Neither accessed its services. Again, feeling intimidated and the anxiety stopping them from trying. Eventually, once enrolled in with our school, the case managers were able to advocate for student 2 with MASP. And when he was interviewed for housing, he was informed that he would need to wait until he was 18 for assistance and in finding a home because he had somewhere to stay at present. Okay, he couch surfs and admits the homes he's staying in are not good influences. Student 1 tried organising Centrelink payments but didn't know how or what to ask for, and when she did was told they couldn't do anything for her until she'd organised her own tax file number. Student 2 was helped to get Centrelink payments by the case manager of the school, and after organising several other formal forms of identification. Student 3 tried connecting with MAS but gave up, stating the intake process was too personal. She did manage to arrange for living allowances. And student 2 also tried reaching out for help to Headspace for the anxiety and drug issues he has, but felt intimidated and unheard by the initial caseworker assigned, so he never went back. A number of agencies are available for youth to access when in need. However, it takes some effort to work out who these agencies are, what they do, and even how to connect with them. For a young person to have a situation develop, sometimes in a very short time frame and often after hours, it's not surprising they have no idea how to get help. Where does a young person who is in critical turning point of their life, who needs to leave with a very little notice in the middle of the night, go? And who do they reach out to for help? I asked this question to a couple of case managers and police officers. I was told there was nowhere for them to go to without assistance, and if it's in the middle of the night, they'd need to call DHHS or the police. The police would call DHHS, who would likely recommend the police find them somewhere safe to stay for the night, and we start the contact circle again. These young people generally don't have the knowledge of what's available, and the likelihood of these young people going to the police for help is very slim. MASP has a number that can be called at night. This number calls a crisis centre over 600 kilometres away. The number is not promoted on billboards or posters. It is given when you call MASP's answering service. MADAS, or the Mallee District Aboriginal Support Service, also has a program to help Aboriginal youth in need again. These young people need to know where to look and what to ask for. The other issue is these are the young people out there who don't even have access to a phone, like student 2, just call someone who cares. Sorry.